What's up, YouTube? This is LA Prepper, and that's it. Thanks for watching. Let's try to not have the caution lights on unnecessarily. So we are here in the Del Taco parking lot. One of my favorite parking lots to be in. And I was looking for a compound, an Admiral 12-inch dual bevel sliding compound miter saw. It's a lot of words. You know, the saw on the arm that bends and does the slide thing. I've been wanting one for forever. I never really... There's been a lot of instances where I really could have used one, but I've never really needed one. You know, unless you're doing a lot of cuts that have to be relatively precise, using sawhorses and a guide or just the skill saw has been fine. My skill saw is phenomenal. It's gotten very light use through the years. Works like a champ. And sorry about the ums. I know the Toastmaster gods would be mad if they watched my videos. I am working on it. I do need to find a local Toastmasters. I mean, some of the stuff they do is a little hokey, but in general, it's such an important skill. So I'm trying to get a saw because I need to do some cuts for my floor, but it's not just the floor. I can do those cuts with the skill saw. It's the shims. So the floor is the subfloor, not the subfloor, the joists, the floor joists are not quite all touching the concrete floor, the floor of the garage. The reason being, well, there's two reasons. One, I wanted to slope the bathroom floor towards the shower and towards the door, so that just water from dripping, or mostly just water from the shower, it doesn't have a tendency to drain into at least two walls. I can keep it off the back wall and the side wall, and it'll drain towards the shower because it'll be tile going into tile, so that's fine. And then it'll drain out the front, which I don't really want, but I'd rather have it drain out the front than drain up into the wall. And the other edge of the wall that it's draining into is a lot easier to access, so if I ever have rotting issues, I can kind of tear it up, although I certainly hope not to. That's one reason. The second reason is that the toilet flange is on there at quite... I'm having problems with this straw. The toilet flange is on there quite aggressively sloped towards the shower, and maybe I'll upload a video of it to see if any of y'all have any better ideas, but it doesn't want to move. I've tried wrench, I've tried pliers, I've tried kind of beating on it, I've tried twisting it. I don't know if they glued it in there. I don't think it's the type of fitting you typically glue in. I'm not 100% sure. But it doesn't seem to want to go anywhere, so I'm not exactly highly motivated to take it out because it seems to be fairly well entrenched where it is. Now, the only thing that makes that slightly annoying, well, again, there's two things. One, I'm going to have to deal with the subfloor, the plywood subfloor, not being at the same slope of the toilet flange. And that's a problem because even though there's a little bit of play in the wax seal, you want to make sure you have a good seal. In fact, to be honest, there might be so much damn play in the wax seal that this is much ado about nothing, and maybe I'll figure that out when I put the toilet on. You know, I wanted to go to Lowe's today, but I ended up going to one Harbor Freight, calling another, getting some food. By the time I'm done with this food, it's going to be 1:30. And it's a 20-minute drive to work. So, I tell you. So back to the floor and back to the saw. Because the floor joists are not sitting completely on the concrete all the way around, and because even the studs going down, between the bottom plate and the studs, there was kind of some weirdness. So I decided I could have done a couple things. I could have tried to notch the 2x6s around the perimeter on the bottom so that they'd sit in a little nicer. And I did that where one of the sewer pipes went up, the vent pipe rather, from the toilet. But I need shims between the back of the 2x6 wrapping around the perimeter of the floor and the studs, because there's kind of like a gap between 1/4 inch, 3/8, whatever. And trying to make cuts that small with a skill saw is not fun. You could set up a jig and all this stuff with boards and whatnot, but honestly, it's so much easier to have the saw, and I need to make, I don't know, 20 shims or 30 shims or something that I've been waiting for years and years to have a semi-legitimate excuse to get this saw. And now that I finally have one, I'm going to buy one. It's going to be an Admiral, like I was saying. It's it's Harbor Freight's middle of the line one. They have the Chicago Electric, that I have found to work fine, but that one just doesn't have many features as the Admiral. And to be honest, most of the stuff's made in China, so it's not like, when something's made in China, granted they're not getting a lion's share of that money. If I buy a saw for $200, it's not like the Chinese company is getting $100. I don't know what they're getting, but I would suspect they're getting about maybe 40 to 60. I don't know. Could be less. The dollar is strong, so $30 for a saw might not seem like much to us, but if that $30 gets you, I don't know, a month worth of food, in America, a month worth of food could easily be $100, $150, even by yourself. So, the point is, I'm either supporting Home Depot's bottom line or Harbor Freight's bottom line. Now, they're both American companies. They both have American workers. When I go to a Harbor Freight, there are Americans working at that Harbor Freight that I support by buying products there. And if the product gets made overseas anyways, the real difference is how many middlemen you deal with, or middle persons. God, it'd be so much easier if we could just admit that middlemen means men, women, and anyone else, which is what it's generally been understood to mean. Like, I'm not a middleman, I'm a middle woman. Okay, middle woman. It's never going to roll off the tongue as well. But anyways. So, that's largely why Harbor Freight stuff is cheaper, is because I think there's fewer middlemen. I mean, Home Depot's probably buying relatively direct, but the thing is, there's the brand. See, I don't know if Admiral is a Harbor Freight brand. Like Hercules, they sort of create these brands out of nowhere, right? So Chicago Electric is like the Kirkland. Kirkland's like Costco brand. Although it might be Kroger, because I've seen Kirkland stuff in other stores. But anyways, companies can just make brands. It's more common with like lower tier products. Like you're not going to see a car company invent new brands every day because that's more difficult. But Harbor Freight can invent a couple tool brands so that people feel like, oh, I don't want to get the cheapest brand, I want to get the slightly nicer brand. And trust me, if they had the Chicago Electric brand that had all the features I wanted, I would very strongly consider buying it. But it's just not the way they do it, so. Love me some Del Taco. Stuff practically kept me alive when I was living in the car. In fact, the guy at the local Del Taco near where I work started to recognize me and try to get like cool with me, like, oh, hey, what's up? It's you again. And I was just kind of like, yeah, kind of prefer you pretend you didn't see me every day, but I guess when you see someone that frequently, it's hard not to, it's kind of it's not an inhuman job, but there's a lack of humanity in fast food, because you're just kind of seeing the same people. You're not really encouraged to have like meaningful conversations with someone, when you're at the drive-thru. Not to say that people wouldn't enjoy it, if someone's just waiting for your food, like, oh, hey, how you doing? You survived the heat okay or whatnot. In fact, now they're so hard up for saving $1 that they have the person at the drive-thru trying to talk to the person they're giving food to and trying to take the next order at the same time. And that has been something. Sorry, I'm just kind of like cleaning my car here. That my car is so filthy. That's something that's really been aggravating me for a while. Is that every time you pull up to the window, you start talking, they're like, oh, hold on. And then they get your order wrong. They forget, like, the water. You tell them what kind of hot sauce you want. Then they get on the intercom, talk to the next guy, and they're like, okay, so what kind of hot sauce did you want? And it's like, just do one thing at a time. Stop trying to do two things when you are clearly not capable of doing two things at once. Just a little mini rant. Little tiny. Also, the upsell kind of gets me sometimes. I'll clearly ask for like one slice of avocado, and then they'll say, oh, is that 2? Was that 3? And, it's really hard to be patient sometimes when people do dumb stuff like that. You want to say, did I say 2? If I wanted 2, then just give me 2. Maybe you don't want to say that, but, sometimes the upsell just gets a little bit... God, this car is just unbelievably grimy right now. Kills me. Guess it doesn't kill me enough to wash it properly, but it does kill me. I'm like the guy who's just OCD enough to not like his car to be dirty, but not OCD enough that he has to keep it spotless. Sort of a weird happy medium. So yeah, we got to get some 2x6 pressure treated. We got to cut them up, finish the floor, put the subfloor on, see how it sits with the bathroom, figure out some tile, figure out some weird corners, do a little bit of waterproofing, sealing. I've done tile before. In fact, it reminds me I need to buy a tile saw, but we're not quite there yet. Life pro tip, get an ice water. The last of your iced coffee beverage drink that does not have ice, then voila, you just increased the volume of your coffee drink. One of my favorite hobo tricks. Plus the water is nice because, it's water. So, in conclusion, we need to buy something to dust my car because I'm getting an ungodly amount of dust in this car from cars driving by. The one thing about living on a street where a lot of cars drive by is the amount of filth that they pick up from the street and deposit everywhere is just really annoying sometimes. So we have failed the saw hunt thus far, and honestly, I wish I would have thought of this a little sooner, and I would have woken up early on Saturday or Sunday and tried to pick up on the Labor Day sale. I don't know if the saw was cheaper, but at least they would have been in stock. But in this case, everyone came in and bought all these saws, and now they're all gone, and they only have a couple items on the shelf. Which is one of the annoying things about Harbor Freight is they just really don't have stock room, so they might have 2 saws or 1 saw, and once it's sold, gone. Until next time, YouTube, stay ready, stay safe, keep your cars, ATVs, boats, trains, etc. running better than I do, and as always, keep prepping. We'll see you next time, YouTube.